Most people don't know this. From cruise ship basics to budgeting to cruise cabins and ports, these are the things that you'll wish you knew before your first cruise. Not knowing these things can leave you feeling unprepared, wasting money, and even mess up your first cruise vacation. Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. This video is part of the Cruising 101 series. So if you are a first-time cruiser, you are in the right place. Now I think I counted 37 tips. It may even go a little bit over because if I remember one or two along the way, I am going to make sure that I include these. Now, by the way, all of these things to know before our first cruise really do come from real first-time cruisers, because I did ask, what are the things that you want to know, to some of the people that I actually know in real life. These are all questions that came out, so I hope that this can be extremely helpful. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention two things. If you are not a first-time cruiser, if you are an experienced cruiser, please share additional tips. Anything we might have missed, please share that in the comments below. I know that is extremely helpful. And if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let's get started. Number one, today's modern cruise ships have stabilizers and are really even built in a way for stability and smoother sailing. Now, I mentioned this because it turns out that a lot of first-time cruisers are really worried about the seas, if they're going to get motion sickness. And even though I do talk about this on my channel, I think it's always good to be prepared just in case. It really is something that's relatively rare because most of the time the seas are actually pretty calm. And in contrast to being like on a ferry or a small fishing boat, for instance, you are just not going to feel that kind of movement on a cruise ship. In fact, most of the time, you may not feel it at all. Number two, let's talk about cruise ship Wi-Fi. Now, you may have heard that Wi-Fi or internet on cruise ships is really bad, and maybe that's a bit of a concern for you. However, in the last couple of years, there have been some great strides, and even things that I might have shared 2 or 3 years ago have really changed about this. Now, the basic Wi-Fi on most cruise ships is okay. Now, it isn't free on most cruise ships, so it is something to know. You are going to have to budget for that. But if you do need really good internet or faster internet, many cruise ships do have premium Wi-Fi available at a cost. And if you're sailing in the Caribbean, most of the time it is pretty accessible and you're going to find that the speeds are relatively good. Number three, cruise ship cabins are smaller than hotel rooms. Now, you might have heard that before, and honestly, on the most part, this is not going to be a big deal because most people are not spending a tremendous amount of time in their cabin. But who it does affect, I think the most, are families that are often surprised that a cruise ship cabin for 4 people, as an example, does not have like 2 double or 2 queen beds. Most of the time, this is going to mean that you're going to have like 2 twin beds or 2 single beds that can combine into 1 queen bed. And you're going to have beds above that are going to be like bunk beds, but they're called Pullman beds on a cruise ship. Or you might have a sofa bed or a trundle bed. So just be prepared for the cabins to be more compact and plan accordingly. So families may want to get 2 cabins side by side, or maybe with connecting doors, or leave it as is and just know that it is going to be a little bit more cozy, and just plan on some space savers for your cabin. Number 4, food availability. Now, one of the great things about cruises is the fact that there is a lot of food that is available and is pretty unlimited. Now, what is included is you're going to have all of your meals, you're going to have all of your snacks, and you do have some things that you can buy extra, like specialty dining, for instance, but you definitely do not have to. So pretty much everything is included if you don't want to pay anything extra. However, what is not included and does surprise people a lot of times is a lot of the drinks are not included. Now, you definitely have some drinks that are included. You'll have some juice, you'll have some basic coffee, some basic tea, you'll have drinkable water, you'll have maybe lemonade and that kind of thing. But what's not included on most cruise lines is soda. So I know that surprises a lot of people, and water bottles. So you do want to plan accordingly. I am going to talk a little bit later about things you can budget for that are extra. That will be coming up soon. Number 5, cruise cabin bathrooms. Now, honestly, on the most part, they're going to be like a hotel room, maybe a little bit smaller. However, something that might surprise you is the fact that the toilet in a cruise ship cabin bathroom works more similarly to an airplane. So it'll make a similar sort of that vacuum or that suction sound to an airplane. I'm just letting you know because it does surprise some people. In addition to other types of entertainment, there is on most cruise ships a very lively casino, and it does stay open until sort of the wee hours of the morning. Now you're going to have your slots, but you're also going to have like games like your poker, your blackjack, your roulette. And that is something to know. And if you really do enjoy playing in the casino, you'll want to sign up for the cruise line's casino program because there are some pretty advantageous perks, including in the future even being offered free or discounted cruises. Now, I know a lot of people say they're worried about feeling stuck on a cruise, but many cruise ships, especially the bigger ones, there is a lot to do on board. So not only the things that you see in the advertisements, like in some cases, this is going to be like surfing pools or race cars or just water slides or really nice resort pools. Every cruise ship, every cruise line is different, but inside the cruise ship, you're going to have entertainment options, but you're also going to have shopping. So if you're somebody who's like, I like to do a little bit of retail therapy, you're going to find duty-free shops, you're going to find souvenir shops, you're going to find jewelry, you're going to find merchandise, t-shirts, even vintage designer handbags, if that is something you like, and even some pop-up or sidewalk sales as well. Number 8, boarding time. Now, I think this is one of the most important things, and honestly, it is hardly ever talked about, and sometimes we see it in Reels or TikTok videos, but it has to be talked about. It is the boarding time. When you see that your cruise ship is supposed to leave, for instance, at 5 o'clock p.m., that is the sail away time, some cruise lines require you to be there at least 2 hours before sail away time. And some cruise lines, it's 90 minutes. So it can vary. But you do really want to be careful. Do not chance it and arrive too close. Allow extra time on boarding day, because if you do arrive beyond that window, it is very likely that they will not let you on the ship. Now, speaking of boarding day, and I'm not going to go very much into boarding day because I have an entire video all about boarding day that I'll leave at the end of this video in case you have not seen that. But on boarding day, something that you should plan for is the fact that you're not going to get your luggage delivered to your cabin if you do leave it with the porters at the terminal until the late afternoon usually, or even the early evening. So plan for that by bringing a carry-on bag when you do board your cruise ship, and you may even want to include a change of clothing to wear in the evening so you are not stressing out. Room service breakfast. Now this is very different from a hotel or even a resort because most cruise lines include room service breakfast, even if room service is not included on that cruise, and some cruise lines do have it. But you do need to watch something because over the last couple of years, a lot of cruise lines have everything on the app and they may not have a room service menu in the cabin. It may not be obvious. So take a look on your app where it says food orders and take a look. The menu might be there, or you might see it on the TV instead, or you might even need to use the in-cabin phone to call for room service breakfast. But definitely do some research, inquire in advance, because this is a nice little luxury that you could get, especially if you are going out on a port day. This can be very convenient. Now, if you're planning your first cruise and you are trying to keep organized, I do have the LifeWell Cruise Ultimate Cruise Planner. Now, the LifeWell Cruise Ultimate Cruise Planner is a 47-page downloadable printable cruise planner that you could use to keep organized from the time that you book your cruise all the way through embarkation and, unfortunately, disembarkation and everything in between. Now, it includes cruise packing lists, cruise planning forms, including a shore excursion planning form that you could print out as many of these pages as you need for as many cruises that you go on. Now, if you are interested in seeing what's included in the LifeWell Cruise Ultimate Cruise Planner, I'm going to leave all of the information linked down below in the description of this video in case you do want to check it out. Store your suitcase under your bed. So I mentioned that cruise cabins are compact, and unfortunately a lot of people don't realize that under your bed, that is storage space. So put those bags right under your bed. And by the way, if it seems like your luggage is not going to fit, just lift that bed up just a little bit, because I even have like fairly good sized luggage and mine always fits. Bring small bills. So I'm not going to talk about packing in general in this video, but one thing that you are going to want to remember and think about, and you can even collect small bills even in advance, is bring this because you may want to give additional tips to people on the cruise ship, or you might want to give tips to your excursion tour guides, or you might want to buy something in one of the ports of call, and using some small bills might get you a better price, or you just might feel a little bit more comfortable. Now, by the way, if you're sailing to the Caribbean, Bermuda, or Mexico, US dollars are pretty much accepted widely, so you can just bring that. Now, in your cabin, you're going to find that there are not a lot of electric outlets, and unless you're on a newer cruise ship, you're not going to have any USB outlets. So plan ahead for that. What you'll want to do is bring a non-surge protected power cube, unless you're on Royal Caribbean. I will explain more after, but on every other cruise line, bring a non-surge protected power cube that you could use to have extra outlets, as well as extra USB outlets so that you can charge your devices. Now, if you're on a Royal Caribbean cruise, you are allowed to bring USB charging multi-outlets. I am going to share both of those items. I'm going to share them in the description below this video in case you are interested and you do need them. Plan for disembarkation. Now, I hate to think about the last day of the cruise at the beginning of the cruise, but it is something you just have to think about. So one of the things that you'll want to think about is whether or not you're going to use self-disembarkation, or if you're going to have assisted disembarkation. Assisted disembarkation just means that the luggage is going to be removed from the hallway outside of your cabin by the crew, and you're going to be able to collect it at the cruise terminal. That's honestly the easiest way to do it. However, the other way is that you bring all of your luggage down yourself when you get off the cruise ship. Now, you definitely can do this, but you do have to make sure that you are able to carry all of that luggage yourself, because on the last day of the cruise, disembarkation morning, the elevators are going to be very full. So there's a good chance that you may need to carry that luggage down several flights of stairs. Now, the other thing to think about for disembarkation morning is to plan an outfit for when you are leaving the cruise ship. So sometimes what people do is they'll just wear whatever they traveled with on the way to the cruise, like for the airplane or something. They just wear it on the last day of their cruise to get off the cruise ship. That's an easy way. Leave that outfit out. But don't forget, because I can tell you that there are always like some people that are wearing the clothes that they were wearing the night before, or maybe even a pair of pajamas. And you definitely also want to leave out a pair of shoes. The muster drill is mandatory. Now, it has changed over the last few years, but it is still mandatory. So what you'll need to do is check in at your muster station. That's sort of your gathering station. So you'll want to do that. They'll scan your card when you do that. And usually either in your cabin or on your phone, on your app, you can watch a safety video as well. And this is something that all passengers need to do before the ship sails away. Okay, this is a money saving tip, and it is pretty unique. I actually have not heard anybody share this specific thing. So you're going to look out for spa discounts or salon discounts. And typically this is going to be on port days. Port days are going to usually be less expensive than if you go to the spa on sea days, but there's an extra time that you can actually save money. Now, you'll want to usually do this before your cruise by booking online, but if you know you want to get your hair done, or maybe you want to get a pedicure or a manicure, take a look at the times of the appointments. Something that I ended up noticing is if I went and I had a salon appointment at 4:00 p.m. or 5:00 p.m., it was less expensive than if I went at 1 or 2 p.m. or in the morning, when it was usually less expensive. And honestly, since I usually eat dinner around 7 p.m., I'll make an appointment to get my hair blow dried, and I'll have that done around 5 o'clock, and it's just perfect. I'm ready for dinner. An elevator tip. So we mentioned that it's going to be busy in terms of the elevators on the last morning of the cruise, disembarking, but also on embarkation day, the first day of your cruise, you're going to notice it does get very busy. But here's the tip. The middle elevators tend to really be the most busy because they're near the atrium. However, if you go forward or aft, you're going to find that they're less busy. Typically, aft is the least busy of them all. And I think most of the time, it's not always, but I think most of the time the gangway to get on and off the ship is usually in the middle and in the front. And this way, I found at least most of the time on cruise ships that back elevator has been the most quiet. Budgeting for extras. Now, there's a lot included on a cruise, but there are a few things that you'll want to think about just to know to plan in your budget. One of them is gratuities for the cruise. Now, this is not typically included on most cruise lines, so you'll just want to know that this is going to be added on to your cruise day by day. Now, most cruise lines, it's going to be between $15 $120 per person in the cabin. And if you want, you can prepay this before your cruise. You can even adjust this once you're on the cruise ship as well, if you do really want to. Now, in addition to that, some other things to think about is, do you want to go to any specialty restaurants? Now, while the food, the main dining room, the buffet, and even a lot of casual restaurants are included, there are some optional specialty restaurants. Research your cruise ship and see what you want to do. Do you want to buy a drink package, or do you want, on some cruise lines, they have a sort of bundle package where you get different things, including specialty dining and maybe shore excursions and the tips and the Wi-Fi, etc. That might be bundled together. So take a look at that to see if that is a good savings. Now, beyond that, things like the spa and the salon are going to be extra. And even things like if you want to play bingo or deal or no deal, or go to the casino, those are all things to think about and budget for as well. Print out your cruise luggage tags. Now, I realize this is something that's not necessarily obvious. When you've booked your cruise, as it gets a little closer, you do need to do your online check-in. Now, after you do your online check-in, you're going to be prompted to print out your luggage tags. Now, they are just paper. So basically, you do have these little instructions as to how to fold them and how to staple. But most experienced cruisers, what they do is they go and they purchase these plastic reusable luggage tag holders. Now, they are available in different sizes depending on your cruise line. I'm going to leave them all linked down below in case you do need any. But it is so good to get these because they are basically waterproof, so you can just put your luggage tags in. You can save yourself, honestly, about 45 minutes stapling and possibly taping these and laminating them, and you are going to need it to board your cruise. A cruise card. Now, when you're on a cruise, you're going to have a cruise card instead of a key card like a hotel. Now, it's going to work to open your door, but beyond that, it's also going to be almost like your wallet or your credit card during your entire cruise. So every time you buy a drink, or maybe you check into one of the activities, you are going to need to have this with you at all times. Even to get off the cruise ship and on the cruise ship, you are going to need this. Now, in the past, we only had cruise cards. However, now we also have other things. So if you're sailing with Princess, we have these little medallions, and they basically really work the same way. We have for Virgin, we have these really cute sailor wristbands, but it really is all the same idea. Now, I do want to show you, if you do have the cruise card, which is still most cruise lines, what you're going to want to think about is, how are you carrying your cruise card? Because you're not usually going to be walking around with a wallet or even like a big purse or anything like that. So you want to have your cruise card handy. Now, I usually bring a lanyard, and I like this one because it does unclip. So even in the evening time when I have an evening bag, I can just put this straight into my evening bag. My husband really likes a cruise card holder. Either way, but you do want somewhere that you make sure that you don't lose your card. Bring a sweatshirt or cardigan for a cruise. Now, even if you're going on a Caribbean cruise, so many people say what they wished they had brought and they just didn't think about, because they did check the weather, was the fact that they should have had something like warmer when they were on the cruise ship, or even just for windy days. And oftentimes I do talk about women, but guys as well, because there is air conditioning inside the cruise ships. And even in the Caribbean, it can get pretty cool in the theater and even like in the dining room and some of the public areas. Check your cruise planner for port days and sea days. You're gonna have a list of all of the different activities that you can do on your cruise planner. And most cruise lines do have available a paper version if you want. However, this is all available on your app, so you can look and plan for it. Now, here are 3 unique items that you'll want to bring on a cruise. One of them is magnetic hooks, and that is because most cruise cabin walls are metal. Not all. There's some older Holland America ships and some older Carnival ships that unfortunately don't have metal walls, so don't hate me if I told you to bring magnet hooks and they don't work. Most other cruise ships, it is going to work. But what you can do is you can actually use those little hooks and you can add extra vertical storage in your cabin. Now, you do want to make sure that you have the heavy duty hooks, because this way you can hang backpacks and like heavier things, a sweatshirt, that kind of thing, even a bathing suit to dry, all of that. The other thing that you want to think about is either towel clips, or these days a lot of people will bring towel bands. It gets very breezy on the Lido deck, so you definitely want something to hold your towels down. Oh, and I guess I should have also mentioned, but magnet clips. Now, those magnet clips, they work the same way as the hooks, but you could use them to put any of the paperwork that you get, maybe the daily schedules, maybe if you have shore excursion tickets, you can put them hanging on the wall so that you will not lose them and they will not clutter up the desk. Now, by the way, all of the items that I do mention in this video, as well as other cruise essentials, I am going to leave them all linked down below in the description of the video. It's right below the title. So if you do need any of those things, they will be there. The weather can affect your itinerary. Now, this is something about cruising. Well, it actually can be something good, because if the weather is going to be stormy, if there's going to be a hurricane, for instance, what the cruise will do is they will have to reroute the ship to other ports. Now, it is better than being somewhere like in an island where a hurricane is coming. So this I still think is a good thing, but you do have to be prepared to be a little bit flexible when you go on a cruise. There are sometimes unforeseen things that can happen, but the most important thing is the captain will never bring the cruise ship to an area where the crew or the passengers or the vessel will not be safe. Speaking of safe, use the safe in your cruise ship cabin to keep all of your valuables. Now, this can include your keys, your wallet, your credit card, jewelry. Now, some people say they put their medication in there. So if that's something you think you should do, definitely do that. Now, your safe in your cabin is really something that is very secure. The cabin attendant cannot open it. They would need the supervisor to be able to open it, and that really would only happen in extreme cases. Ask your cabin attendant about laundry specials. Now, sometimes cruise lines do have laundry specials midway through a cruise, but if you do want that special a little bit earlier, you can ask for that. Now, that's certainly something that can be handy if you're on a longer cruise, or even if you're packing a little bit lighter. Do a little bit of research before just to find out if the cruise line does have one. But I have used that before, and I've even come home with clean laundry. Ask your cabin attendant for some extras. Now, your cabin attendant really is beyond housekeeping at a hotel. Now, obviously, be nice with what you're asking for and be reasonable. But what I mean is you can ask for extra towels. If your bed is a little bit like uncomfortable or too firm, you can ask for a mattress topper of some sort. Now, ask for this ideally on the very first day, because these things can go quickly. You can even ask for a fan sometimes. You can ask if you like your ice bucket filled daily. And even if you need any clothing pressed, you can ask your cabin attendant that. And obviously there is a cost to getting any laundry or items pressed. But if you are in a little bit of a rush, let them know, and sometimes they can have that for you faster. Expect long lines at guest services on the first day of your cruise and the last day of your cruise, and just, play it accordingly. So something that you'll want to do is, if you do need to go see guest services, definitely go do that. But there are times it's going to be quieter. Late at night, they are open 24/7. So go late at night after a show, or go early morning before everybody else is there. Get familiar with cruise lingo. Get familiar with cruise lingo before you go. On a cruise ship, you are going to use some nautical terms, and so is everybody else. So you're going to say deck instead of floor. You're going to say cabin instead of room. And you're going to notice that people say port or starboard instead of left and right, and forward and aft instead of front and back. And these are important things to know, because when you are trying to navigate around the cruise ship, these are things that you're going to want to be aware of. Expect a time change during your cruise. Now, a lot of first-time cruisers are surprised to find out that even if they're going on a Caribbean cruise, it's not uncommon to have a time change. Now, oftentimes this is done like the first night of your cruise, or even the second night of your cruise. And that's done so that the ship time can match the island time when you arrive. And this way, when it is the same time on the ship as the island time, it does prevent people from arriving back late to the ship and them missing the ship. But either way, you're going to want to keep an eye out for island time, because it can happen that maybe the ship time and the island time are different. If that's the case, something you can do is bring a simple watch that just stays on the ship time. And the other thing that you could do is make sure that you turn, like your iPhone, if you have a phone that automatically adjusts to the current time when you get to a port, make sure that you adjust that manually. Fun things that you'll see and find on cruise ships that you probably won't find many other places. Now, one of these things is matching cruise t-shirts. A lot of people do this on cruises. So if you think you might want to get matching fun cruise ship t-shirts, husband and wife, or maybe you're going as a group, that's very common. That's definitely something fun to do, and you will not be out of place, especially if you wear that on embarkation day or maybe for a port day. The other thing is, especially on some cruise lines, cruise cabin door decorations. So people really go all out and decorate their cabin door. The only thing I would say is don't decorate it with anything very expensive. Unfortunately, sometimes, your items can be taken off a door. It's not nice, but sometimes it could happen. So do watch. Don't bring anything that's super expensive. And the other thing is cruise ducks. Now, in particular, if you are on Carnival, if you are on Royal Caribbean, this is something that you're going to see a fair amount of on other cruise lines as well, but cruising ducks is definitely something that is part of cruising today. Speaking of cruise lines, not all cruise lines and not all cruise ships are the same. Now, I think a lot of people know that if you're going to go on a Holland America cruise, it's not going to be the same as a Carnival cruise, or if you're going to go on a Celebrity cruise, it's not going to be the same as a Royal Caribbean cruise. The vibe, the energy, the things to do are going to be different. But did you know that cruise ships that are within the same fleet, the same cruise line, are going to be different? Well, definitely that is something true. So you do want to do your homework. If you really want all the latest and greatest activities and things to do on a cruise ship, you want to go with one of the newer cruise ships from the cruise line most of the time. Because if you do go on even something like Princess Cruises, as an example, if you go on the Caribbean Princess or Crown Princess, which are still nice cruise ships, the newer, more modern cruise ships that are part of the Royal class or part of the new Sun Princess and Star Princess cruise ships, they are going to be quite different. Be sure to fly into your cruise port at least one day before your cruise. Now, I think it does surprise a lot of first-timers that the cruise ship will not wait for you, unfortunately. And unlike a hotel that's still going to be there if your plane arrives late, or even a resort in an island, the cruise ship does need to leave from the terminal, and it will go. And by the way, while you can meet the cruise ship oftentimes at the next cruise port of call, it is going to mean that you're probably going to miss at least 2 days of your vacation, and you're not going to start off your cruise on the right foot. Be sure to download the Cruise Line app. Now, you'll want to make sure that this is downloaded for the time that you already arrive on the cruise ship, and this is going to be gold for you during your cruise. You're going to be able to check out most of the time the menus at the different restaurants. You're going to be able to check out the daily planner. Oftentimes, you also have a messaging app that you can message other passengers. So if you don't have your Wi-Fi turned on during your cruise, you can use that, and you can check your onboard account to make sure it's accurate. Now, there are a couple of things to do before you leave the cruise ship at all costs. One of them is make sure that you do check your bill, and if there is something that's wrong, you have to deal with it on the cruise ship. It's next to impossible to get refunds once you're off the cruise ship. The other thing is pick up your photos or download your photos if you got the photo package. If you leave it till you get off the cruise ship, it is also near impossible to be able to attain those photos after. Now, I'm going to leave all of the information about the LifeWell Cruise Ultimate Cruise Planner in case that can be helpful as you plan your first cruise down in the description below, as well as the different items that I talked about in this video and other cruise essentials. Now, after this video, I'll also leave a playlist of the other Cruising 101 videos that I know are going to help you as you plan your cruise. But let me know any additional questions that you have. Let me know in the comments below. And if you have cruised before, please share your additional tips as well. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I would love to have you here within the LifeWell Cruise community. Bye for now, and happy cruising.